right, welcome back to Computational Combat. I'm Dylan Grayson, joined by the brains of the operation, Johnny Koppelman, and the man so nice they had to test him twice, Connor Protter. How's it going? How do we feel about that one? I had to come up with 3 shows in a week, dude.
Very, very timely, because that was almost like off the cuff. It sounded like it was pretty.
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I mean, hopefully it turns out well. Yeah, it is frustrating when you get back an inconclusive test result or a rejected test. So hopefully.
Oh, they didn't even test it. They literally, I handed them a vial of my very own spit, and they looked at it and they were like, nah, son, too much mucus. And instead of doing the smart thing, which would be like, you know what, you're already at the testing center. Here's another tube. Try not to fuck it up this time. They were just like, reschedule. Don't eat beforehand. And I was like, I didn't eat beforehand, and you're being dumb. This is stupid.
I'm sorry that your school is not as streamlined as mine with that. All right, but let's actually get into what we're supposed to talk about on this podcast, which is surprisingly not mucus.
Hey, Nick Lynn's fighting.
All right, so let's start with looking at I wanted to say last week, but that's not the way it's going this time. This past Wednesday's card, so that was yesterday's card. Let's look at Chiesa versus Magny, how the algorithm did, and then we'll jump into predicting the big one, UFC 257, this Saturday. So, Umar Nurmagomedov.
I can read from here. I have all the fights as well.
All right, so why don't you just tell us how the algorithm did and where the breakdown goes?
Yes, so for the – actually, you better read them because I can't pronounce these names.
All right. Sweet.
I just realized I can't pronounce these names.
Okay, so once again, slightly out of order because of last week, but we'll try our best here. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Sergey Morozov. No bet there.
Debut.
Ricky Simone versus Gaetano Pirello, also no bet because there was a debut, correct? All right, Dalcha Lungiambula versus Marcus Perez.
So it had Dalcha as a 59% favorite. Place the bet on him. That won, so that came through.
Okay, Sumiderji versus Zaruk Adashev.
Just as we promised, Sumiderji won. We do not have to drink hot one sauce, and I can wear a hat.
Want to?
Yeah.
All
right, so Davis versus Jones. There was no bet because there was his debut. Leonardo versus Fiorot. Was that also some debuts?
Yeah, debut.
Okay. Rivera versus Figueiredo was also some debuts. Okay. Akhmedov versus Breeze.
Yeah, so we had Akhmedov as a 52% favorite. It placed a bet on him, and he won. He was an underdog on the book, so that was a pretty sweet win.
All right. Tyson Nam versus Matt Schnell.
Before that fight, or I guess we're going out of order, so it's fine anyway.
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry about
that. Entourage. No, it's fine. Tyson Nam, we had him as a 60% favorite. It placed money on him, and he lost.
All right. Villanueva versus Moreira. I believe there was no bet placed by the algorithm just because it didn't like this one.
There wasn't enough value.
Yes. Okay.
On either side.
Modafferi versus Araujo.
Before that, let's do the Entourage one, right?
Yes. Okay. The Douglas Silva Andrade versus Leron Murphy.
Yeah, so we had Andrade as a pretty fat underdog. We had him at 33% chance of winning, but the books had him as even a fatter underdog, so there was value there. So it placed a small value play on him, and that lost.
All right. Modafferi versus Araujo.
We had Modafferi as an underdog as well, but there was value on her because she was a very, very thick underdog. And she lost as well.
Modafferi and thick in the same sentence.
Yeah, right.
I'm not body shaming. I was just reading nice. You're terrible.
This one is the one that I was most impressed by. Worley Alves versus Munir Lazez.
Yeah, so the algorithm had that as basically a 50-50, right? And Alves was, he was like a plus 200 something on the books, or plus 100 something. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. But he was an underdog. So it placed a value play on him as well, and he won. So that came out good.
Yeah, big surprise, but, I mean, hey, good for the algorithm. Then the main event, Chiesa versus Magny. I believe the algorithm picked Chiesa, correct?
Yeah, it had Chiesa as a pretty decent favorite. He was a 66% favorite. So it placed a decently sized play on him. We talked about all the play sizes last time, but that came through actually as well. So to summarize the card with value plays and all, it came out on the bet place, the total amount placed, it came out with 40% profit. So it did pretty well on this card.
Awesome.
So if you followed all of the picks, you would have gotten 40% profit on that.
Awesome. All right, so now into this Saturday's big card, UFC 257, and I thought there was a lot of criticism of the card going in, just as, oh, this is a weak card, and the only thing that's on it is Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, and then they added Chandler versus Hooker. But otherwise, there wasn't much hype, and I'm looking at it, and I actually really like most of this card. So starting from the bottom.
In fairness, Dylan, if you look at the main card, the top two fights are absolutely crackerjack. But how many of the other three fights would you really consider a portion of the $60 that you pay to be going towards it?
I mean, I understand that, but I do really like Rodriguez versus Ribas.
Right, but
I also like the Calderwood fight.
You like Jessica I fight?
No. I like Joanne Calderwood.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of her.
No, I don't know. I mean, it's like if you look at a card like 259, I think it is, the one that has like Peter Yan getting another win, Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya, and a third title fight that I just can't remember.
First of all, screw you. I heard that. Aljamain Sterling's bringing the belt. I'm telling you. We'll get into it in March.
We'll see who the algorithm agrees with.
Yeah.
I actually have. I should probably think about that fight. I think it's just that like McGregor cards typically are just like not that good because they're like,
they don't need it. I mean, yeah, think of the business move. The way they establish these cards is they have internal like basically rankings. They have internal numbers to see how much each pay-per-view is like you're basically your effect on the pay-per-view gate, right? So they see Conor McGregor pushes it so far, you're wasting your money putting any other needle movers on this card. The fact that we got Chandler on this card versus Hooker is crazy because Chandler's like a new name. He's
I get that, but to quote the late great prophet Nathan Donald Diaz,
I love Nate.
Is this the money channel? I don't give a shit about the business. I just want stacked cards.
Yeah. Also,
yeah, that's an ideal world. Yeah. Soon enough, when there's enough competition here.
Like, if you've got McGregor on the card, get a hot prospect on there so that casual fans see them.
Hey, who's the prelim headliner, my guy?
Chandler.
No. The prelim.
Prelim head. Oh, I thought you were saying the headliner.
I mean, that's good, but like, you should get some of those on the pay-per-view as well because they were going to casuals that only tune in at 10 p.m.
I mean, that's a good point for Jessica I. I just, here we go, evil. Here we go. Woof, woof. Part of me. All right, we can get started, though. I'm done shit posting. No, I'm not.
Yeah. We'll get back.
You're not done.
Jessica I. But starting from the bottom, at flyweight, Amir Albazi versus Zhalgas Zhumagulov. That's easy to say. Even though he doesn't have a UFC win, I think ZZ Top isn't that bad. But I like Albazi here. His grappling seems dangerous. What, ZZ Top? You don't like that? That should be his nickname. If he's not officially ZZ Top, I'll be mad. Albazi's got some dangerous grappling. Coming off a triangle choke win in his UFC debut, I'm going to take him. Anything from you, Connor?
A lot of things from me. With regards to the fight, though, it is actually kind of interesting. ZZ, God damn it, ZZ Top.
Better than trying to pronounce that name again. I'm just too white for it.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, there's nothing wrong with losing to Raulian Paiva. Like, the dude's good enough to be competitive in the UFC, especially at flyweight. And especially if you look at his pre-UFC record, he has wins over both Tyson Nam and Ali Bagotinov. Ali Bags, who I believe former UFC fighter, but like well-known name, legitimately credentialed fighter. And those are both better wins, in my opinion, than anybody that's been beaten by Amir Albazi.
Yeah.
Like the biggest name on Amir Albazi's record is a loss to Jose Shorty Torres. Momentum is on Albazi's side, but he hasn't necessarily beaten the same name, so maybe I'll just take ZZ Top in this one. I don't know, man.
All right, and I assume, Hacker Man, you've got nothing for us on this one.
I do, and I just realized that I did. I didn't think I did, so I didn't run it originally, but now I ran it. So the algorithm has Zhalgas Zamugla. I'm not.
ZZ Top. We'll stick with ZZ Top.
You good at pronouncing names is the only one that decides to go for it.
Dude, I'm terrible with names. But yeah, well, it has him as a 59% favorite. And while you guys debate the next fight, because I believe the next fight is Nick Lentz, and I know you probably have some shit post about that. So while you guys say that, I'll run the numbers for the bets that it would place. But Zaglas has a 59% favorite.
Yeah, I realized as you were saying it that he has actually had one UFC fight. Both of these guys have. All right, so moving on quickly to featherweight. Nick Lentz versus Movsar Evloev, and Connor, sorry, I'm going to be the one to say it. Nick Lentz needs to fight Charles Oliveira a fourth time. I don't know what's wrong with the UFC where they were like, yes, this guy's lost to Charles Oliveira twice. Let's give him Charles Oliveira again. Oh, he lost again? That's weird.
So in fairness, the second loss was then overturned to a no contest. So technically, he only lost twice.
Lovely. Anyway, Nick Lentz is past his prime, and Movsar Evloev is undefeated and looks decent. I'm taking Movsar Evloev.
Yeah, my opinion's much simpler. Fuck Nick Lentz. He said he wants to fight his mom. Hopefully he gets cut after he loses so he can go fight her next. Evloev's an actual prospect. Nick Lentz sucks.
Was that an actual quote with like context from Nick Lentz?
Yeah. Hold on. Nick Lentz fight my mom. He said in a post-fight interview.
Just to be clear, he said he wants to fight his own mother. He's not trying to fight your mom, right?
I'm pretty sure.
All right. So, while we're looking up Nick Lentz's questionable quotes,
looking incredibly embarrassed.
What do we have for Evloev versus Lentz, Johnny?
Yeah, so quickly, the Zaglas. Was that right? Yeah, the previous one. There's no value there on either play.
Okay,
so,
after all that, no bet. Love
yeah,
it.
after all that typing I just had to do, it didn't even matter. And Connor, you'll be excited to hear that Nick Lentz only has a 27% chance to win this fight, with it picking Movsar as a 72% favorite, 73% favorite actually. However, the books have him as even a heavier favorite, so much so that there's a value play on Nick Lentz for 62 cents to your $100 or 0.62%. That is crazy because I have never. Let's just say that the books have it basically almost close to like 80% chance that Movsar wins.
All right,
which
you heard it here first. A computer algorithm says Nick Lentz is going to win this fight.
Listen,
that's the opposite. It's like the opposite.
I know.
Listen, I've always hated the algorithm. Also, I think I may have made it up about Nick Lentz. I Googled it without his name, and it's apparently a thing from Jorge Masvidal on Twitter that he said he would fight his own mom. Could have sworn that he'd said it, though. My bad, Nick Lentz. You're still an asshole.
All right, get that defamation suit written up. Let's go. We have just defended Nick Lentz on recording. That's a joke.
Cut out the part where he admits he was wrong, and we'll work out a deal with Nick Lentz on the back end to get some money out of the suit.
Yeah. We're deeply sorry to Nick Lentz.
Let me give myself culpability. I regret nothing. If you put that over the portion of time where I say that I admit that I was wrong, nice. All
right, so this is off to a great start, and definitely not just us shitposting for no reason. Moving on to middleweight, Andrew Sanchez versus Mahmoud Muradov. Neither guy has a win over like a particularly impressive opponent, but Muradov's on a 12-fight win streak, and I don't see it ending here. Sanchez isn't bad. I just don't think he gets it done.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree. Like, if you go based off of the people they've beaten, I mean, Andrew Sanchez is just, like, not very good. Like, the biggest name that he's beaten recently, I guess, would be his most recent fight over Wellington Turman. But, like, if you – not that MMA math is a real thing except when it counts, but, like, his opponent, Mahmoud Muradov, has a win over Alessio Di Chirico, who we just saw flatline Joaquin Buckley. And again, MMA math doesn't work, but like that's a better win to have. I would pick Muradov on this one.
Right. Just to go off on a tangent again, because apparently we're all in full ADD mode right now. Wellington Turman needs to change his nickname to Beef.
All right, on that note, I will come in and I will let you know what the algorithm thinks. But before I do, it is important to state, or I feel like I could interject here with that. I've been doing a lot of the research on the back end, and who you beat, like that MMA math, it works, but it's a little more complex than just a name. You have to look at what point in the career you beat that person and at what state, like what momentum they had, and then you can start doing that kind of stuff. Because like an Anderson Silva win isn't the same at any time. Like a Chris Weidman Anderson Silva win and a Uriah Hall is completely different, if you get what I'm saying. Anyways, what the algorithm says for this fight, it has Andrew Sanchez as a 63% favorite. So it completely just tells Dylan he's wrong here. With it placing around $1.25 to your $100 or 1.25% on Andrew Sanchez, since he is an underdog on the books as well.
Yeah, I don't agree with that, but that's fine. And I will say, Johnny, if you are doing a lot of research on the back end, I assume you've been looking into Tyron Woodley. All right, moving on. This is great content, right?
Yeah. I can't even cut you off this time.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to light heavyweight. Khalil Roundtree versus Marcin Prashino. Marcin Prashino lost to Sam Alvey. That's it. Khalil Roundtree. Done.
Hey, no Sam Alvey slander will be accepted on this podcast. Sam Alvey
will be accepted, and it is being accepted. That's it. Connor, you got anything more important to add than that?
So I do actually. Because you're actually underselling how bad that loss to Sam Alvey was.
Oh, okay,
Hold on. No. This is important context. I will turn this into analysis. Just watch it.
Okay, good.
So not only did he lose to Sam Alvey, he walked into an Alvey counter shot, got stung really hard, got rocked, puts his hands down, looks at Sam Alvey, who's already retreating poorly because it's Sam Alvey, and goes, bet that can't happen again, and literally stumbles forward, arms down, chin sticking out, and gets hit with the exact same shot and then knocked out. He didn't just get knocked out by Sam Alvey. He got knocked out in embarrassing fashion. And I said that I would turn this into analysis, so that I got to say it anyway, Johnny. I don't know how to
feel analysis. I mean, he's got terrible striking defense.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about Khalil Roundtree in the sense that, like, he did say that he was going to retire before this fight, and then changed his mind. I don't know necessarily where his head's at. He doesn't really necessarily seem to love, like, being a mixed martial artist. He doesn't really fuck with the ground game. At the same time, like, you're putting him against a dude who's lost 3 straight by knockout. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Alvey sucks. I mean, Marcin, whatever his last name is, Marcin Prachno sucks.
I don't think that's how you say it, but, you know, we've been messing that up the whole time anyway. Johnny.
Well, it's a good thing that I don't have to pronounce that name because it thinks Khalil Roundtree is a 65% favorite. And actually now I do have to pronounce the name because the book has Roundtree as a larger favorite. So there is a value play on Marcin, I'm going to say it that way, of 62 cents to your $100. So it's not a big play here, but there is some small value here.
I have to say, I've been disliking a lot of the bets that the algorithm spits out, and then on fight night going, well, I'll be damned, that actually worked. So
yes, yeah.
I will be the first one to admit that, like, when Dylan first texted me saying, hey, I've got this buddy who's got, like, this math nerd shit that works, I was very much like, and I'm my mind's still not made up, but I was very much like, oh, I'm sure it will, like, regress to the mean at some point. And then, like Dylan, I'll hear the bets and be like, that doesn't make any sense. And then somehow it's been very consistently.
Yeah, because actually, like, quickly, I'll say the regressing to the mean thing is the reason it works. So if you take a risky play that only will win 30% of the time, but you're taking a value play on it, if you take that once, you're going to lose probably. You have a 30% chance of winning, according to the algorithm, saying the algorithm is right. Well, if you take that bet over time, then over time, the law of large numbers, that outcome will happen 30% of the time. And it's placing the correct amount of money so that if that outcome does happen 30% of the time, you end up profitable, if that makes sense, which is why over 150 fights, currently the algorithm is up 67%. And it's because of the long-term play. If it's short-term, you can't play like that.
The argument being basically that the algorithm does a really good job mixing between fights that have a guaranteed outcome and fights that have a risky outcome, but if you win, you win big, and if you lose, you don't lose that much.
Yeah, that's like one of the ways you could look at it. Essentially, it takes adjusted risk plays. So it'll never put money that isn't worth the risk down on a fight.
That's fair.
All right. Up next, women's bantamweight, Sarah McMahon versus Juliana Pena. At first glance, I kind of thought that this was going to be a tough one to call, but then I saw that Sarah McMahon was subbed by Marion Renault, and then Renault lost all of her bouts since. Juliana Pena has some grappling. I'm not even going to say anything more than she has some. I'm taking Juliana Pena.
Hey, she might be the best grappler at 135 right now.
Women's bantamweight is a barren wasteland. That's all I'll say.
So
they need more talent.
I tend to agree. Like even outside of losing to Marion Renault, Sarah McMahon was also tapped by Ketlin Vieira and Amanda Nunes, which is weird for someone who was a silver medalist in the Olympics for women's wrestling. But she kind of just shoots for takedowns and then gets caught in subs. I think if this fight had happened prior to the Jermaine Durandamy fight, I would have been like, oh, yes, like, of course Juliana Pena would sub out Sarah McMahon, but she also got fucking armbarred by Alistair Overeem, so I don't really know how to trust her on that one, you know? I'm going to take Juliana Pena, but it's entirely possible that she might lose.
So the algorithm has Julia Pena as a 68% favorite. The book has Sarah McMahon as the favorite here. So it's putting a decent amount of Juliana Pena with $1.88 to your $100.
Oh, okay. So I do like that bet a lot. And also, I'm just going to have to circle back and note that Connor just referred to Jermaine Durandamy as Alistair Overeem. God damn it. Oh, man. I think we're all bad people. Back to middleweight. Brad Tavares versus Shoeface.
She is a Dutch kickboxer.
It's not, yeah.
It's basically Alistair Overeem.
What's the next fight?
Brad Tavares versus Shoeface, Antonio Carlos Jr. Both of these guys haven't fought since 2019. Both of these guys are coming off of 2 losses, but they're actually all solid names. You know, Tavares, one of his last 2 losses is to Adesanya. But I'm going to go with my heart here, and I'm just going to say Shoeface because I like him better, because I feel like they're on relatively equal footing at the moment, and I don't know how good Tavares is with his submission defense.
So I actually kind of I agree with – I think I agree with your outcome, but I come to it from a different perspective, I think. Shoeface, when he was up and coming, like back when he was like – it was actually back when he fought, what's his fucking face, Marvin Vettori. I was like, oh, wow, this dude's like super good prospect, like super intense grappler, weird nickname. I can root for this guy. And he's just consistently like kind of disappointed. Like I really thought that like, you know, he like had fights fall through with Derek Brunson, Elias Theodorou. And then his last 2 fights have both just been kind of really bad stinkers. It's kind of hard to get excited for his fights at this point. I think Brad Tavares used to be one of the most consistent gatekeepers in MMA. I think he's definitely taken a backslide. He had some pretty gnarly injuries, which is why I think he hasn't fought since 2019. I think I'm going to take Brad Tavares in this one. I'm not confident on it, but just like thinking about it, I don't know how to trust Shoeface when he doesn't necessarily always show up like he should be. And Tavares has decent takedown defense as well.
So the algorithm has Antonio Carlos Jr. as the 61% favorite, so it agrees with Dylan here. And the books agree with Connor because Brad Tavares is the favorite. So it placed weirdly, it was kind of close the way the book had it and the way we had it. So he was only a small underdog, Antonio Carlos Jr. So we're putting 62 cents to your $100 on him. But I really like that play because I think that Antonio Carlos Jr. wins this as well.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. And then the prelim headliner, this one should be a banger. At lightweight, Arman Tsarukyan versus Nasrat Haqparast. So this is really tough because they're both very good, and they're both very good in very different ways, and that makes it difficult to figure out who's going to win. But personally, I'm going with Kelvinho Gastelum, Nasrat Hakparast. He looks exactly like Kelvin Gastelum.
I thought it was Halal Kelvin.
I'll say I'll go with the size humor over the ethnic humor.
Yeah, there's not a lot of diversity on this podcast, so we can't be going. We gotta say
you can't be throwing that out. But
yeah.
Regardless, I think it's going to be Nasrat Hakparast, and if Hakparast can't get the knockout, then I think the longer this goes, the more it favors Arman Tsarukyan. But I'm picking Hakparast.
So I distinctly remember texting you, Dylan, immediately after the Tsarukyan versus Makhachev fight, and I distinctly remember saying something to the effect of, he looked really good, but the fact that this fight was so grappling heavy disguised difficulties for him with his striking. Arman's a great prospect. I really love him. He's been talking about retiring and switching to hockey. I really hope he doesn't.
That's it.
But I think Nasrat is just the level of striking. I think Arman's good. I think he's a super legit prospect. I think both of these guys could easily be like top 10, maybe top 5 at lightweight. But I just think like Nasrat's just so much better of a striker than Arman is, and I don't think Arman is so much better of a grappler that he can make up the difference elsewhere. So I'm taking Hacksaw.
Can you imagine getting into a hockey fight and it's Arman Tsarukyan, and on ice skates he just hits you with like some sick judo throw?
If he makes the show, I'm putting him on my fantasy hockey team just for that reason.
I mean, that's basically what like fighting Ed Herman or Tim Boesch is like, I imagine. Like they both just, I mean, Ed Herman was literally a former hockey player, but like, I feel like him and Tim Boesch both have like big hockey energy, you know?
Yeah, I get it. All right.
What's hockey energy? You just assume that they like drink a lot, probably. I feel like hockey energy is just how much they could drink.
Something tells me Tsarukyan doesn't drink much. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, Arman is 68% favorite from the algorithm. He's also a pretty heavy favorite on the books too. So heavy, so we have money on a value play on Nasrat. We have what? How do you say it?
Hakparast.
Yeah, I'm not saying the last. I'm not going to botch that. But it's very small amount of value. It's 13 cents to your $100. That is officially a new record for the lowest value play we have taken.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, if you got like $10 to bet, throw a penny. All right. Moving on to the main card. And I think from here on out, we're looking at really good stuff, except for Jessica I, which makes me vomit, but that's fine. Women's strawweight, number 8, Marina Rodriguez versus number 10, Amanda Hebus. So I didn't realize that Marina Rodriguez's only loss was to Carla Esparza by split decision.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
That's really interesting to me. But I really like Amanda Hebus. She's got the momentum going. One thing I've also realized is I didn't look at the Verdict worldwide pick yet. So Connor, you say your thing, and I'm going to go find what Verdict says.
Yeah, so we actually saw Marina Rodriguez's debut in the UFC versus Jessica Aguilar. Was that the Atlantic City card?
I don't know which card it was, but I do remember seeing her fight live.
Hold on, wait. I'm actually kind of curious about this one, mainly because. Oh, okay. It was the Philly card. I wore that shirt yesterday. I was gonna be like hype as fuck if I was wearing the right shirt for that one. Oops. We got to watch her fight live. It was a great fight. The only thing for me is I think Amanda Hebus has a much higher ceiling. I think beating people like Mackenzie Dern and Randa Marcos is at least equivalent to losing a split decision to Carla Esparza, which is a really weird way for me to basically just say that, like, I think Carla Esparza is kind of around the same level as Randa Marcos. So I'm going to take Amanda Hebus for having beaten basically the same equivalent.
Yeah, and I will say it's not much of a surprise when you have a fan favorite like Amanda Hebus in there, but Verdict does say her by decision is the most common pick.
Yeah, and Verdict agrees with the books on this one. However, the algorithm disagrees with both of them. The algorithm says that this is essentially a 50-50 fight. It has Marina Rodriguez as a 51% favorite. So it sees this fight as being very close, how they stack up. However, I would agree with Connor. I like Amanda Hebus here. I really like her. I don't even think it's going to be that close, personally. And since Marina Rodriguez is an underdog, it is taking not a value play because it thinks it's its favorite, but a bigger play here with $1.25 to your $100 or 1.25%. I don't like that bet personally, but we'll see.
Hey, I think it's a good strategy in terms of betting.
Oh, it's been working flawlessly.
Moving on to lightweight, Otman Azaitar versus Matt Frivola.
I know who Dylan's taking.
I refuse to bet against a Sarah Longo boy. I really like Matt Frivola, and the question here is, how does Otman Azaitar deal with a wrestler? If he can deal with a wrestler, sad night for me. If he can't, happy night for me. I don't think there's much more to say about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen Ottman's pre-UFC career, so I don't really know. Maybe he has faced wrestlers and struggled with them. But generally, you don't want to be you don't want to be fighting to a split decision versus a dude like Luis Pena, who I don't personally think is very good. I don't know. This is actually one of the tougher ones for me on the card. I think Frivola's kind of like Merab Dvalishvili, an incredibly strong, incredibly focused grappler. I'm gonna take Ottman here. Like, the dude has shown some absurd knockout power. Frivola's tough. Maybe he's not tough enough, but insufficient data for a really confident conclusion.
Yeah, and verdict says Azaitar by knockout in the first, which makes me big sad.
Well, let's hope the algorithm and you are right, Dylan, because it also has this as an extremely close fight, but it has Matt Frivola as a 53% favorite. The books agree with verdict here, so we got a decent size placement on Matt Frivola as well with 62 cents to your $100 or 0.62%. I personally like this play a lot. I think wrestlers that are good pretty much dominate the UFC.
Yeah.
There are big periods of time. I think this is one of the only real championship eras where every single champion isn't a wrestler.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts if you think about it.
Jan, Figueiredo, Jan, Volkanovski. There is no lightweight champ. Well, okay, Khabib is still technically the lightweight champion, but he's retired. And then middleweight, light heavyweight. Those are all non-wrestlers.
Yeah. What's Kamaru Usman? Isn't he like kind of a MMA wrestler?
No, I didn't mention Usman because he is a wrestler.
Okay, yeah. And also, Figueiredo's wrestling defense is absurdly good. I don't know if it's because he's so strong.
He's not innately a wrestler.
Yeah. He just has absurdly good wrestling defense, and you'll find that for when a guy is too big for his division or is bigger than everyone else in his division because no one has the strength to really play around with him like that.
Yeah.
Moving on to flyweight after some technical difficulties. Number 6, Jessica Ai versus number 7, Joanne Calderwood. The Wi-Fi cut out, as Connor was explaining, after I had complained about this for a while, but I do not like Jessica Ai here. I think Joanne Calderwood gets it done. I'm not going to harp on it again, but Connor?
Yeah, so I'm also in the same status where it's like, I feel, I'm cool with Joanne Calderwood. I'm not that crazy on Jessica Ai. I think the thing for me is that Jessica Ai is a wrestler. She's not the best at it, but she's a very ardent wrestler. Joanne Calderwood, according to UFC stats, has 55% takedown defense, and she has literally never managed to successfully defend a takedown. She's good.
Uh-oh.
If you give her the range that she needs, she has good kicks. She can do a decent job entering and exiting the clinch with elbows and knees. But she classically struggles pretty badly on the ground. I mean, if you look at the people who have beaten her, like you have Jessica Andrade, you have Cynthia Calvillo, you have Jennifer Maia, all who took her to the ground and just controlled her from there. I'm going to take Jessica Ai. I think the person who's a better wrestler is going to handle the Carlos Condit of flyweight,
Yeah, and the algorithm actually agrees with you, sadly. Jessica Ai as a 52% favorite. So we have it very close as well. And so do the books. The books have it essentially even. So it is placing a very small size play on Jessica Ai at 13 cents to your $100. I also want to say I really like Joanne Calderwood. I think Joanne Calderwood's going to starch Jessica Ai. But I also agree with Connor. If Jessica Ai could take Joanne Calderwood to the ground, it's just going to be a boring, she doesn't know what to do, she can't get up, and nothing really is going to happen on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, one thing in Joanne Calderwood's favor, besides the fact that it's Jessica Ai, is that many moons ago in 2018, she got taken down by Kalindra Faria, and she got her in a triangle armbar and tapped her out.
Oh, wow.
So like maybe there will come a certain point where if they go to the ground, Joanne Calderwood will just be like, oh shit, I remember how to jujitsu from guard, and we'll just like, lock something up real nice, and we'll all be really happy about it. But she does not do it consistently enough to feel comfortable saying it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, moving on. So, once again, I have to go back to the verdict pick for that one. All right, so verdict's pick for that last fight, Jessica Ai versus Joanne Calderwood. The most common pick worldwide is Joanne Calderwood by decision. That's all I want to say on this. Let's quickly move on to the co-main event. At lightweight, number 6, Dan Hooker versus debuting Michael Chandler. They're giving Michael Chandler a really big spot here. He's the former Bellator lightweight champion, 3-time lightweight champion. Coming in and immediately facing the number 6 in the co-main event on a Conor McGregor card. They clearly think he can be a big star. However, I do feel like he is not top 5 in the UFC caliber. I feel like he could easily be top 10 in the UFC, but, I just don't feel like he's quite good enough, and I do feel like Dan Hooker is going to get it done here. Do I have a lot of, specific analysis and reasoning for that? Maybe not, but my gut says Dan Hooker. Connor?
Yeah, so the thing with Michael Chandler coming over from Bellator, he is an excellent wrestler. He does a pretty decent job cutting off the cage, things like that. He's got an extremely powerful blast double leg, if I remember correctly, from the few Bellator fights that I actually managed to get through. That being said, he's not that tall. I think he's 5'7" or something like that. He's 5'8", but Dan Hooker is a dude. He's 6 foot. He's a dude who built his career off of fighting people who are significantly shorter than he is, and abusing his reach advantage, abusing the fact they have to come in on him in order to get things done. And I think that's going to pay a lot of dividends against Michael Chandler. If you go through the list of some of the best knockouts that Dan Hooker's had, like his knockout against Gilbert Burns, his fight with Mark Chiesa, Ross Pearson, Jim Miller, the demolition of Ali Akinta, his fights consistently work because he forces the other guy to come in, and then he somehow manages to connect his knee to their face. He lands disgusting uppercuts, things like that. He's teammates with Israel Adesanya. They're both really good at keeping their eyes incredibly open and incredibly aware of the threat that's coming in on them. And even some of the really good wrestling shots that Dustin Poirier got, not that Poirier is the same quality or caliber of wrestler as Michael Chandler, but even a lot of those shots just got seen and, wrist control and got pushed away against the cage. I think that Michael Chandler is just going to get picked apart at distance, and every time he comes in, he's going to get punished really, really badly. He's an incredibly durable dude, but we've seen him get hurt really badly before. I don't see a reason why that wouldn't happen unless Dan Hooker somehow just, aged 1,000 years after the Poirier War.
Yeah. I just want to say Dan Hooker's resume in the UFC, the most competitive promotion for MMA in the world, is pretty damn good. I mean, he's fought Paul Felder. His wins over Paul Felder, Ali Quinta, and Edson Barbosa, whether those fights were close or not, in your opinion, doesn't matter. These are some big names that I think Paul Felder versus Chandler, I would even say Paul Felder has a shot to win that. So some of his resume could even beat Chandler here. So I'd have to agree with both of you. Obviously, we don't have an algorithm pick here because Chandler's new. I just see Dan Hooker kind of keeping him at a distance as well, and winning the fight.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the main event. This is the big one. Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor, a rematch at lightweight. So the first thing, the most important thing to discuss is the fact that I believe all three of us now will be starting a new tradition while we make hot wings and sauce them up with Dustin Poirier's hot sauce.
Yes.
The main event here.
What are you talking about?
I'm so happy I bought that. The shit's really good. It's delicious.
So
not a sponsor. We don't get money for anything we do.
You can't get a sponsor with 22 views. Anyway, I will now show something new we have. This is in very early stages. This is right now the early stages of something we're building, which is a resume comparison tool. Right now, you're seeing just the resume breakdowns. The reason we're showing you this is because there's this cool thing. We have our own internal ranking system for someone's score at the time of fight. These are all Dustin Poirier's fight. This is his resume. And the Raw Dog score is their score at the time of the fight, right? So you can see the way this breaks down is you have the opponent he faced that day, their age, his own age, the opponent's wins, losses, and streak at that time, as well as their score at that time, the round the fight ended, how the fight ended, if Poirier won or not, the date it took place, if it was a title fight or not, and how many fights the opponent had. So the way this is going to be helpful is we can see and compare resumes based off of who you beat, and not just rather who you beat, but when you beat them. So you see the scores as well. So something to point out that catches my eye is this little patch here before the Khabib fight is extremely impressive on Poirier's side.
Johnny, can you zoom in by any chance?
Yes.
Might be easier to see that way.
So if I'm getting this right, this is essentially a way to make MMA math work.
Yes, because something interesting is people like to say, oh, this person beat this person, right? As we talked about before, Anderson Silva is my favorite example because the man lost 7 of his last 8 after losing his first fight. He was on like a 17-fight win streak and then lost and then continued to lose with one Derek Brunson win in between. The reason I bring this up is because if you try MMA math and say, oh, Bisping beat Anderson Silva, so I think Bisping could beat someone else or something like that. Well, it's important to point out that he didn't beat the undefeated Silva. He beat the 1-loss Silva or the 2-loss Silva. Also, like this, you can use this on any other fighter as well. Uriah Hall versus Anderson Silva, we brought that up before. So what this does is you can see, so when Dustin Poirier fights Eddie Alvarez, this is Dustin Poirier stuff, Eddie Alvarez scores a 9.6. Well, this is after Eddie Alvarez lost a couple fights, and he's only back on a 1-fight win streak. So Eddie Alvarez, when Conor McGregor beats him, is a 10.42, which makes sense because he beat a 3-fight streak, Eddie Alvarez, who had some impressive wins under his name and had a good amount of momentum. So I think that's cool to point out as well because this gives context to wins. So you can see as well, something cool is McGregor beat Dustin Poirier when Dustin Poirier had a score of 6.5. Dustin Poirier obviously has a much higher score now, and so it's even proven that you're dealing with a different Dustin Poirier that you fought before because you can see his current Raw Dog score is 39.
Okay.
Johnny, can you do me a favor real quick?
Yes.
Can you scroll down to Donald Cerrone on Conor McGregor's record? Because it looks to me like Cerrone at the very bottom has a really high score in that fight, coming in off of multiple knockout losses.
So that's a great point. That's why this is in beta. So the problem is the way that you earn points for wins is pretty much sorted right now. However, I don't know exactly how to punish losses yet without it getting something weird happening. So something cool weird with Donald Cerrone is the reason that I figured this out. Donald Cerrone is the most winningest fighter in the UFC. I believe he still holds that. So he's won a lot of fights against some decent people, but that counts up. So his score is really high. And right now, the only thing I'm doing for a loss is subtracting 1 just so that it doesn't break everything. So a guy like Donald Cerrone doesn't get negated too much. But everyone else on these lists, for the most part, is pretty accurate in my opinion. The only one weird one would be Donald Cerrone, which is why I thought today would be a good day to show off some of this. Obviously, Donald Cerrone's Raw Dog score here should be maybe even the 10s, because he fought a very beaten and losing Donald Cerrone.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
All right. So moving on to the actual opinionated discussion here. I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I think it should be short and sweet. I'm going to stop your sharing, Johnny, so you can see their beautiful faces again. I don't think much is going to be different this time around between McGregor and Poirier because I think Poirier is much better, but so is McGregor. And I feel like if they get into exchanges, Dustin Poirier needs to land volume and McGregor doesn't. So I feel like at the end of the day, it's going to be a knockout for McGregor in the earlier rounds.
So one thing to clarify that has changed is that Dustin Poirier went from skinhead to salon quality, and Conor McGregor was like, wait, that's stupid, and just shaved off his head and looks awful. I do tend to agree, though. I think Dustin Poirier's style has radically changed since he moved up to 155. He looks like a completely unrecognizable fighter, not just because of his hair. He's got a great jab, great lever punching. I love the way that he like shifts between stances as he throws. He's comfortable mixing and wrestling. He's got a really terrible guillotine.
Don't forget whatever this is.
What fight was that?
I think it was the second Alvarez one. Don't quote me on it.
I'll quote you on that. Dylan said it's the second Alvarez fight.
Yeah, that very weird guard he was holding up.
Yeah. Oh no, that was the Max Holloway fight. That's just
Oh,
like
you're right. Definitely. Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, what does he call it? It's like the hillbilly shit, he had a name for it. I don't remember what it is. Anyway, beyond the point. His style has changed. He does have really good defense. To quote Max Holloway, he's blocking weird. But McGregor was able to figure him out and adapt repeatedly over the course of 2 rounds. I just don't know why he wouldn't be able to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I want Poirier to win. I love Dustin Poirier.
Agreed.
I'm definitely torn because with a Poirier win, I'm a bigger fan of Poirier than McGregor, and I want him to get this one back. But with a McGregor win, you could do so many things with that because he's just such a big name. But for my analysis, quickly before I go into the algorithm, I think if you pass the second round, the scorecards will look like 2 rounds to none for McGregor. And I think once you reach the third round and the later rounds, Poirier really starts to turn it up. You can even see his stats. He turns it up as the fight goes on. And I know McGregor, I don't think cardio is a problem with him anymore. I think he's good at 155. I'll take his word for it, right? Even if you take his word for it, I think Dustin's cardio is just next level and his will is next level. But I also think Dustin Poirier, since their last fight, got a new boxing coach who he's had this whole time. And his boxing, the way he puts combos together on these dudes that are also good at boxing, Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker, to say two, Max Holloway, who we see is one of the best strikers in the UFC. It's just, I think that this Dustin Poirier gives Conor McGregor a run for his money. I see him winning, honestly, in my opinion. And so does the algorithm, but the algorithm has it very close. It has Dustin Poirier as a 56% favorite, okay. Which could be attributed to the fact that Dustin Poirier has been more active, so he's had more time to get more fights under his belt. Obviously, the books have McGregor as one of the fattest favorites on this card. So it has $1.25 on Dustin Poirier or 1.25%.
Yeah, I like that. And I will say the same thing that's affecting the books, being a fan favorite. Verdict has McGregor by knockout in the first as the most common pick worldwide. I'm not going to say I don't get it, but I don't agree.
Yeah, I mean, the other, it'll have actually been over a year since McGregor's last fight. And in fairness, also his last fight was Donald Cerrone, who was coming off knockout. Like, I don't really rank that fight at all. I know some people, Johnny, I think you're one of those people who's like, yeah, like it was still a really impressive win. But for me, it's like watching an experience. It's like watching Charles Oliveira fight Nick Lentz. Of course he's going to do well. That's the point. McGregor did really well against Cerrone because that was the point. Of course he was going to do that.
I mean, to be fair, also, I take Donald Cerrone's word at face value. I think he's a very honest dude. He's always has been his whole career. And he said during the Conor McGregor fight, he didn't want to be in the octagon. Whether it was that he was too nervous or something, I believe him. I mean, the dude admits when he loses if he came to play or not, and he said he didn't. With that being said, I still think that Dustin Poirier's boxing is being underrated because when Conor McGregor wins, he looks so good. When he loses, which is rare, he still looks so good. So it's hard to root against Conor McGregor. Dustin Poirier's losses, some of them have just been like, what happened there? Like the Michael Chandler loss, right? Not Michael Chandler, sorry. The Michael Johnson loss was very, very weird. So it's like the two, if you're just going off of like watching, I would say McGregor obviously is a favorite, but I just disagree.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to wrap this up for 2 reasons. 1, I got to get back to studying. And 2, I just heard my cat's bowl go flying. So got to go deal with that. So we will be back in, I believe, 2 weeks to talk about the next one. So after 3 quick ones in a row, a little bit of a break here. There's no UFC card the weekend of January 30th. So we'll see how it does, and we will report back when we can.
If Nick Lentz wins, I will drink 2 tablespoons of hot sauce because he's that much of an underdog in the algorithm.
Dylan, that's what the fuck I respect because he knows how bad Last Dab XXX is. And he was like, yeah, I will quantify that shit for you. That's respect, Johnny. Big ups, dude.
All right, now I'm rooting for Nick Lentz. All right, that's all we got for this week.